Welcome back to Wanderlust with DeWitt & Co. I'm Craig, and it's been a while, and we're getting right into it. In the next few episodes, we'll be going over our upgrades and what we did to our caravan, why we did them, what worked, and just importantly, what we learned along the way. This episode is about power and payload. We're focusing on two major upgrades that we did, our lithium power system and the ATM Upgrade, which really changed the way we could operate our caravan. Our caravan is the Jayco Journey Outback Pop Top, model number 13.42.2. We upgraded the lithium battery from 120 amp lithium to 300 amp hour lithium. We also did a 3000 watt inverter, a 50 amp DC to DC charger, and a few extra Anderson plugs on the outside. One of those Anderson plugs is connected to the tow bar at the front of the van for charging from the car. The other one is on the external body next to the solar panel Anderson outlet we had installed. That one on the side of the van allowed us to have both input and output, unlike the other Anderson, which was solely dedicated to the solar system. In other words, you could put a solar blanket onto it and connect it to the solar controller that already existed in the van. The other one was directly to the battery via a large fuse. The advantage of the new setup was flexibility. It allowed us, with the external gear to the caravan, to both plug outside power sources if we had external devices that we needed powering up, but more importantly, you could connect something to it to power into the van. The real world and why it matters. And this is very interesting. We took our van away for a weekend to test the new systems, and the trip turned out to be a perfect real-world test. We were parked up under a shady tree at the campgrounds out behind Kenilworth, so we could get the caravan in a situation where the solar panels on the roof weren't working, and we would have to use a solar blanket, which you can take out from under the tree shadow and put it out in the sun. Now, that's important because in summer, in particular, there are a lot of places where you want to park under a tree to get the shade and cool the van down, but you also need to charge. And this is why it's important that when you do consider solar, that you always consider having a solar blanket set up so that you can also charge from outside under the tree. We parked under the shady tree and ran the solar blanket external to the sun. You'll see that in the video. We also load tested the new battery system by loading a large current draw to the battery by running the air conditioner for about 2 or 3 hours. And that was the test to see how the battery would hold up. Now, in this actual test, in the real world test, our new battery failed completely. If we hadn't installed the other Anderson plug, we would have been in real trouble. But as we had that Anderson plug, I was able to take our 120 amp hour battery that we had as a dual battery setup in our car and hook that in parallel to the battery. And that allowed us to get operating again with all the internal electrical system working in the caravan, not a complete failure for the weekend. So that was a real good test. The 300 amp hour lithium battery was replaced under warranty, so no issues there. But a lesson was crystal clear. If you've got the time, please go and have a test camp before you go away. So with that 200 watt solar panel, you get an extension cable. You get a controller, but because we've got the MPPT controller already in the van, we don't need to use that. We've got a pair of clips here, which we won't use right now either. Really, all we're using is a blanket. Keep the blanket secured to the ground. You've got some pegs, which is handy. Most people have pegs, but it's nice to see they put some included in that hardware. we have our solar blanket. Never opened before. First time. Here we go. Doesn't look too complicated. Lay it out. It's just simply got to go out there. So, that. Legs out. Wow. Perfect. Touch the extension lead. Might have to come back a bit. So probably here, because there's a shade here from the tree, I might end up sticking it out that way. Yep. Perfect. Right there. Should be good. We've gone from 0 amps that we're charging from the solar panel on the roof, and we're getting now 9 amps from the solar blanket. That's awesome. Perfect. Doing what it's supposed to do. Now, the ATM upgrade. Why Payload matters. While all the electrical work was being done, I got hold of someone to do the ATM upgrade. I contacted Dion from Jayco Engineering. The great thing about Dion was he actually came out to where we had the van, took all the measurements and everything needed to see what the compliance plate would need. He was able to do all the tests, work it out, and give us a new compliance plate at the same time. Our ATM increase was from 1,837 kilos to 2,200 kilos. It was quite a dramatic increase because our original tar weight being 1,487 kilos and the original ATM being 1,837 meant that we only had a 350 kilo payload. After the upgrade, 2,200 kilos minus 1,487 meant a 713 kilo payload. That is an increase of over 100%, which is huge. Now, why this matters in the real world is with the original 350 kilo payload, once you fill up the water tanks, 160 kilos had the gas bottles, and full of gas, they're 9 kilos each, so that's another 20 kilos. You're only left with about 120 kilos of actual real-world payload. And with 120 kilos, you've got to have your bedding, your clothes, food, fridge, drink a few cartons of beer, and all of those things. Before you know it, you've gone over your payload. So it really does matter that you get an upgrade done to the van to make sure that you're doing everything safe and properly. So after that, the next few episodes, we'll go through all the other upgrades in detail, power, storage, weight distributions, and show you how to set up your caravan, especially this model, to most probably the best kind of caravan you could possibly have. There is something I do have to point out. This renovation was done prior to the changes made to the legislation about where you can install batteries in a caravan. Now all batteries have to be installed externally outside the caravan. In this video, you're going to see that our battery was installed in the original place where the other battery had been. That was okay back then. Now, if you're doing an installation, you're not going to be putting the battery inside that same space unless it is actually sealed off to the interior and ventilated to the outside space. Just letting you know so that I don't get any comments and feedback saying what I've done is illegal. Everything I did was legal at the time, and we haven't done any changes since.